late doing this. Let's see if the audio is working. It's loading, as always. Right, ain't no way it's already been 30 seconds. Alright, I think everything is working. And I know that we're here for Ring of Honor TV review, episode number 138. We have been here for 138 plus weeks, because I remember there's at least 2 to 3 of those weeks that weren't, because I'm stretching. We've been here for a long ass time discussing ROH on Honor Club. I really shouldn't be wasting a lot of time because I've finally purchased NBA 2K26 and it has been installing for hours and hours. And in the meantime, I watched ROH and we're about to review it, so I shouldn't be wasting time. I will say there is a discussion point that will come up a little bit later about a Ring of Honor championship. If you know, you know. I don't know how long I'll spend talking about it because I do have a handful of thoughts on it. But before we get into that, let's get into what actually happened on this week's episode of Ring of Honor on Honor Club, because it was a very quick episode. With our opening bout being Angelico versus Mascara Dorada, and it is noted that next week on ROH we will see Bandito versus Mascarada Dorado 2, a rematch from the Ring of Honor World Title match that happened at ROH Global Wars Mexico earlier this year. And I don't know if this already been taped. It's being taped the 24th. So it might be a match that they tape in CMLL, because I thought that they were taping it at an AEW show, but to my knowledge, there's no AEW show on the 24th. Maybe I'm just getting my dates wrong and whatnot, but what does matter is they said that it'll be airing on next week's ROH episode. So before we get to that, it's Mascara Dorado's tune-up match, I guess you could say. This match starts with a technical approach. Dorado lands a dive to the outside. In the ring, Angelico gets his feet up on a moonsault attempt by Dorado. We get a springboard clothesline by Dorado, and then a top rope turnbuckle post dive into an arm drag and a corkscrew plancha to the outside. We get a 450 splash in the ring that only gets a 2 count, a roll-up by Angelico that only gets a 2 count, and then a shooting star press by Dorado ends it. So, very fun opener. I'll say, these matches tonight, they got a lot of time, you know, so interesting matches all around on this quick episode of ROH. Next matchup was a 6-man tag match. Jay Lethal, Tommy Billington, and Adam Priest versus the Dark Order. Small nitpick. I don't know why Adam Priest stopped lining himself with the Workhorsemen. Maybe that's something that comes back to line a little bit later. But in ROH lore, the Workhorse and Adam Priest started working together. The Workhorse was supposed to have a tag title match against LFI, and they were working with Adam Priest in doing so. So why that was dropped, I don't know. But again, it could be worse. I like Adam Priest. So him being used, that's why I said it's a small nitpick, because at least he's being used and with 2 competitors that I like. So Lethal, Billington, and Priest versus the Dark Order. Reynolds and Lethal start the matchup off. The Dark Order do a triple bicep pose while Lethal is tied up. We get mostly clotheslines from all the competitors once they tag in. Then we get a triple German suplex. Lethal applies a figure 4 to Uno. We get a crossface by Billington on Silver, and a single leg Boston Crab by Adam Priest into the matchup when Reynolds taps out. Now, I'm talking about this title change that happened in Ring of Honor. At WrestleDream, Mercedes Moné defeated Mina Shirakawa to win the interim women's television championship. This should not be as big of a deal as I'll probably make it. I'm going to try my best not to, because again, like I said, shouldn't be as big of a deal. I'm not the biggest fan of the Mercedes Moné belt collector gimmick. I think the only, and again, in my opinion, the only people that I like seeing that like enjoy it are Mercedes Moné stands. I'm not going to say there are people out there that don't enjoy it. I will admit, Celebrate winning an interim championship is a bit hilarious and strange. I will again also admit that people were not big fans of interim championships in AEW lore when it has happened. For granted, to be honest, the thing that does matter is that when the actual champion comes back and the interim champion face off, it should be marqueed and made into a big matchup. And I will admit there's a big concern on when the hell that matchup's going to take place. Now, again, I have not even been a big fan of this women's television championship. And the main critique that I've had is we have gotten no update on Red Velvet, how the hell she got injured, etc. Also adding onto the men's television championship, Nick Wayne is also injured. Tony Khan went out of his way to say he shouldn't be out long enough to need an interim championship, and then more time has been added on to his recovery time, so that was just a lie. But back to the women's title situation. I can at least give them some credit, because the main thing I was complaining about when Mercedes won this is like, we're celebrating an interim championship. And then I was going to defend her and say, well, if we're being honest, she should be the actual champion and Velvet should vacate. Until tonight when we tuned in and we see Red Velvet and she gives a message to Mercedes Moné. And, she addressed kind of the elephant in the room and said that she was off recovering and didn't give an update on her injury and whatnot, and she's been recovered. So kudos to her. Again, my main critique was to the people that are actually showing up and should be informing us on where she is at, and they just kind of were trying to make it seem like it wasn't a big deal. But I'm somebody that makes things more dramatic. So my point is, Mercedes Moné is the interim Ring of Honor Women's Television Champion. They even put her on the cover photo on Facebook and X/Twitter, whatever you want to call it. So they tried to, she's not the inner champion because, the actual champion is here. So whenever the hell we get this unification bout, it should be a big deal. I just don't know when the hell that is going to be. I don't know if they know when the hell it's going to be. Final Battle would be if y'all don't have it done by Final Battle or at Final Battle, then I would have probably gave up caring, because I'm going to tie it into the other women's title situation, and that being the women's pure title, because we've had this tournament going on since Death Before Dishonor. People that are in the tournament regularly compete on ROH TV, but not in tournament matches. And I'm mainly alluding to Deonna Purrazzo, which, again, not her fault. Not her fault. It might seem like I'm caught up and saying it's not. So the next matchup is Deonna Purrazzo versus Angela Risk. It makes me hard to care about these pure matches when the pure tournament is going on, and it's just kind of a thing. Again, alluding to Final Battle, I think they want to stretch the tournament to have the finals and to crown the first champion at Final Battle. They have not said that. They have not. It's just kind of what I think on it. So, if that's the case, okay. I'm not the biggest fan of that, but time will tell when the hell that happens. But we have another week of another Deonna Purrazzo pure rules match, as this week she faces Angelica Risk. And I did not know this was a pure rules match until the bell rung. We get an immediate corner stomp by Deonna that leads to an armbar use and Risk using her first rope break. We get a Hurricane Rana by Risk that gets a 2 count. Then Deonna traps her in the corner and follows it up with a power bomb and another armbar in the center of the ring with Risk tapping out. And she did not get to celebrate for very long, as Yuka Sakazaki made her entrance, and they had a bit of a face-off, which, again, I was bothered by because, hey, Deonna, that is not your first-round opponent in this tournament. It's Trish Adora, which they did allude that, hey, this matchup could actually happen in the tournament because, tournament continuity, as I could say. But this next matchup was Yuka Sakazaki and Alex Windsor versus Billie Starkz and Aleah James. There's a cut of honor, but it is followed by a sneak attack by Starkz, with Starkz and Windsor starting the match off. Lots of arm drags from Windsor early, back and forth. Yuka tries to do a dive onto James, but Starkz grabs her feet, so it stops that from happening. Then soon, all four are involved with a forearm exchange, and James breaking up a pin after Windsor's Blue Thunder Bomb. Starkz gets pissed when James tries to tag herself in because Starkz is on the top rope, and yells at her, saying that, she does not work here. She doesn't know what the hell she's doing here. Also, sidebar, I don't know why Billie Starkz is not teaming with Diamante or Athena, her two actual... I can understand Athena, because she is recovering from injury and also has a new tag partner, Mercedes Moné. Sidebar done. But back to this matchup. So she yells at Aleah James and leaves her, essentially because she tagged herself in when she probably shouldn't have. I could at least give James credit because she makes it out of Windsor's sharpshooter, but does not make it out of the pump handle half Nelson bomb that Windsor delivers, as Windsor and Sakazaki win this bout. Again, I enjoyed this match. This was a good matchup. The Grizzly Young Veterans and Isla Dawn take on Leroy Shogun, which might be my new favorite wrestling name, Bryce Cannon and Dream Girl Aleah. Cannon and Gibson start the match off. Dawn holds her own when she is tagged in, and then Shogun tags in, and she tries to fight him, but by the rules, she cannot. The Grizzled Young Vets land a dropkick into a Michinoku driver on Shogun, while Dawn lands an elevated reverse DDT on Aleah to pick up the victory. And this week they could celebrate as the Premier Athletes don't attack them post-match. So now we come to our main event matchup. Griff Garrison versus Commander. And this matchup went way longer than you would expect. It was about 10-ish, maybe even a little bit over 10 minutes. Fast-paced start by Commander until Garrison pushes Alex Abrahantes in his way, giving him the advantage. It also helped him when the rest of the frat house would attack Commander with the referee's back turn. We got a running Spanish fly by Commander that gets a 2 count. Garrison's forearm and facebuster get a very close 2 count, and then follows it up with a spin out slam that gets a 2 count. Commander dives onto Vance on the outside, and then back in the ring onto Garrison, and then back to the outside onto the rest of the frat house. At this point, Garrison joins him out there and attacks Alex Abrahantes with a forearm. And then he goes to deliver a powerbomb on him, but Commander kicks Garrison's feet, and it looks like Abrahantes gives him a Hurricane Rana, which seemed to be the plan. Within the ring, Commander landing a rope walk shooting star press to end this matchup. And end this episode of ROH on Honor Club, episode number 138. Because this episode, the matches, were not squash matches. They were actual back and forth matches, and the episode didn't feel like it dragged. I actually, could say I enjoyed this week's episode of ROH. I can imagine I enjoy next week's more because I know a Bandito world title match is happening, as Bandito is trying to build even more of his case for Wrestler of the Year. Main event of this week's Dynamite. So, he's built up a great case, but that's something that we got 2 more months and some change to decide on. So I don't want to have this review go on any longer than I have to. I do appreciate y'all watching this as always. I'll see y'all when I see y'all. Enjoy your weekend. Stay safe. And I'll see you when I see you. So I said that twice, but it just means a lot more. Bye-bye.